out of range. The boy's face was sheer white, his neck tendons tight as mooring ropes. Jim turned to the other man, who looked very slightly amused. "I'll do this, then it's over," Jim told him. He turned and walked away. They got into his car and drove away, a man riding into the past, driving from this world towards hell. The first email had come a few days before summer ended. Nina and I had spent the afternoon in Sheffer, a very small town in the Cascade Mountains of Washington State. Our temporary residence was smaller still, a log cabin that was one of three a retired couple from Portland had installed on a 40-acre lot in the forests 30 minutes northeast of Sheffer. The husband had died soon after, but Patrice was still going strong. She offered us the use of one of the cabins after we extricated her from a situation out in the woods. Patrice's acreage backed onto national land and had its own big pond. If you looked out across it on an autumn afternoon, it was easy to believe mankind had never existed, and it was easy not to mourn the lack. Our cabin was on the far side, half a mile from the road. Nina was presently out on the porch in front of the cabin. Nina was supposed to be watching the sun go down, but I knew she wouldn't be. I was in the kitchen area of the cabin, putting together a salad. I knew that we were going to be having a conversation soon. It had been brewing for a week, and I was in no hurry for it to start. Consequently, the salad was taking on baroque proportions. I had gone as far as steaming some French beans and was waiting for them to cool. To kill the time, I wandered into the living area and flipped open Nina's laptop. I had one of my own, but it wasn't really mine and was hidden in the roof space of the cabin. I checked my email accounts once every couple of weeks at most. The one guy who used to email me regularly was dead, and it was his laptop which was in the roof. So when I saw I had a single email, and that it appeared to be to me in particular, I suddenly felt very still. The subject line said just, "Ward Hopkins." I didn't recognize the sending address. It was a Hotmail account, and had been sent to an address of mine which I'd not used in 2 or 3 years. I opened it. It said only this: "I need to talk to you." No, you don't, I thought. I heard a creaking sound from outside, and turned to see Nina heading towards the door. I quickly shut the computer and went over to the kitchen. "Ward, I done stared at that sunset as long as I'm able," she said. "Where the hell is the food?" "Coming right up." I spread the beans artfully on top of the other stuff in the bowl. "Voila," I said, "the salad to end all salads." "You're not kidding." She smiled a little. "You're an idiot." "Perhaps, but I'm your idiot. Come on, give it a try." She spooned some salad out onto a plate, and then added an extra scoopful to show good intent, pecked me on the cheek, and carried her plate and the wine bottle out onto the porch. I followed. Talk minus a half hour and counting, I reckoned. After about 10 minutes, Nina set her fork at a "that's enough of that" angle. The lake was assuming its twilight form, black and glass-like. "What are we going to do, Ward?" I took her hand. The summer had been good to us. We had stayed around Sheffer, got to know some of the locals, got to know each other, too. When we'd accepted the use of Patrice's cabin, we'd only been together a week, though our lives had been linked for 6 months, since soon after my parents had been murdered. Nina knew most of what there was to know about my past. I knew stuff about her, too. More than anyone, I suspected, including a man called John Zandt, who had once been our friend, but appeared lost to the world now. The three of us held secrets it would have been better not to know. That was why our life was this way. We had boarded up our windows, but the world was still out there. Nina had a job for a start. Her negotiated leave of absence had been stretched to the point where it squeaked. My own position was more fluid. I had worked for the CIA some years before, specializing in media surveillance. In the end, they let me go. Actually, I walked, just ahead of a mandatory polygraph test. "We'll decide something," I said, "but tonight I sit here with you, and I don't feel I'm lacking much." "Well, who would? I am quite literally a peach. Attractive, smart, even-tempered, the perfect companion in all ways." I laughed, and the question went back to hide under its rock. I didn't say anything about the email I'd received, nor about the second, with exactly the same subject and message, which arrived 2 days later. I deleted this one and buried the other deep in a folder. It was only on the morning when a car pulled up the track towards Patrice's cabin that I accepted nothing. No smile or white lie or overblown salad would be enough to stop the world coming to find us again. The two men sat in the chairs where we normally ate. One was rangy and tall, with his hair cut short. His name was Doug Olbrich, and he was a lieutenant in Special Section 1, the LAPD Robbery-Homicide Division dedicated to high-profile murder cases. The other man was Charles Monroe. He was a special agent in charge at one of the FBI's field offices in Los Angeles, and he was Nina's boss. I had met him only briefly, immediately prior to his receiving a number of gunshot wounds from an assailant who had attacked us in a diner in Fresno 5 months before. The man who shot him, and me too, in the shoulder, was dead. Nina had killed him in the forest, a couple of miles from where we now stood. "Why didn't you call ahead?" she said, "by which I mean yesterday, not when you're halfway around our lake." Monroe put his mug on the table. "Would you have been here when I arrived?" "Of course we would." He didn't believe her. "Monroe," I said, "what do you want?" "From you, nothing. You are not an employee of the FBI. As far as I am concerned, you can walk off into the forest and never come back." "Ward saved your life," Nina said. "Really? The last thing I saw was him pulling you out of the back of a restaurant and leaving me pinned in a booth. The shooter followed you. I survived by default." "So what the hell do you want?" "Nina, it's time for you to come back." Bang. Just like that, Nina's question of the other night had been answered. "I don't know if I'm coming back," Nina said. "The FBI have been asked to assist a homicide investigation in Virginia. It's messy, and it could be a serial killer. I want you to come with me." Nina shook her head again. "Nina, they think a woman did it." Nina was down by the lake shore. She had been there 10 minutes. "So explain this to me," I said. "You got a body out east, and maybe it's Fed business, maybe it's not. What I don't understand is why your pal Olbrich is here. I don't care how you define LAPD's jurisdiction, but Virginia is a long plane ride away." The men looked at each other. "Tell him," Monroe said. "This is his business, even if nothing else is, and we've run out of time." He walked straight down past me and towards Nina. "This Hendrickson person," Olbrich said. "He's your brother, right?" He was referring to the killer we had caught in the forest, a man who would soon go on trial for the murder of a woman called Jessica Jones in Los Angeles and another from Seattle, Caitlin Wallace. A further trial would take place concerning the deaths of a number of teenage girls in L.A. 5 years previously, a series the L.A. media had called the Delivery Boy Murders. "We're twins," I said, "but I never knew him. His real name is Paul. He calls himself the Upright Man. The delivery boy was Monroe's idea. Paul doesn't work alone, either. You know all this. It's in Nina's report." "Actually, it's not," Olbrich said. "It was determined that your more general allegations confused the case." What I said was true. Nina knows it. Paul worked for a conspiracy of killers, procuring victims to order. He did other things, too. "Monroe's in charge of the investigation, not Nina." "Monroe is in charge of his career. Anyway, what about it?" "After your brother was discharged from hospital, he was transferred to Pelican Bay, the supermax near the border with Oregon. 2 days ago, he was released for transport back to Los Angeles. Well, we don't know what happened, but 100 miles south, something sure as hell did. We have the armored truck, most of it, and the bodies of 2 of the guards were found within a half-mile. The other 2 are missing. The assumption is they're dead, too." "No," I said. "Assume they helped Paul escape." "Monroe said you were a conspiracy kind of guy. You know what I'm talking about. You helped John Zandt. You got information for him. He was tracking Paul. I helped John because I knew him when he was in homicide, and he'd been a stellar cop. He's not anymore. There are 2 outstanding